overcome them and make it happen as fast as possible. Another edition of this event that is so important for security. The Colloquia have been a mix of emotions for me, and I wouldn't be more proud of the space of sharing and reflection that this Colloquia have become for me. So thank you all the members of SECRI for their contribution in making this possible. I would also like to express my gratitude to the three area perspectives in this current and crucial discussion. Today's team, Christine and Evelyn, thank you for always being kind and flexible throughout all the last-minute changes. I am truly grateful for your effort to be here today. Your presence will for sure be huge. To the excellence of the Fabio Cristiano, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for your availability. I am certain that your presentation will be a great asset to all of us. I would also like to thank the distinguished Dr. Antonio Costa for joining us in replacement of the coordinator of the National Cybersecurity Center, Engineer Leo Santos, who due to urgent commitments couldn't be present today. I would therefore like to express my special thanks for making yourself available at such short notice, and we are discourse for making yourself available to help prepare this colloquia and for accepting our invitation to guide this panel will offer you a deeper understanding of this topic. This has become in recent decades a new battleground for strategic competition. It also means reflecting on security, rights, responsibility of knowledge. I would also like to inform a summary of the speaker.
We will start consultants and the to innovation, resilience, and maturity in cybersecurity. Representing Portugal is a member of the board of directors of the European Cybersecurity Competence Center and coordinates the National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, integrated in the European Network of National Coordination Centers. Also acting as a national contact point for the coordination of the European Digital Innovation Hub, Cybersecurity Digital Innovation Hub, and the network of cybersecurity competence centers. Transversally, he develops activities and together with INISA is part of the Executive Committee of the European Cybersecurity Challenge and International Cybersecurity Challenge. Thank you very much.
First of all, I would like to thank you the invitation in the name of the coordinator of the National Cybersecurity Center, Leo Santos, for the invitation and expert in innovation and other things. I will try to speak a little bit much regarding this matter, so I will get started. So we're going to start this school. All right, now I see this area. So we're going to focus in cyber space and cyber conflicts, cyber war, and cooperation with the states and everything else also compete to this new, not so new world. So you see power projected from states, you see trying to countries have economic advantage of that. Not only countries, but also entities. So I think we should talk about entities to get the advantage of this new in this movement that has the power to do it. So it's important to have this differentiation. So cybersecurity, we need to have cooperation. But most of all, we need to have trust between the parties involved in these activities. So, every state or company to withstand and can recover from problems that can arise from cyber attacks or another type of influence. Not only cyber attacks, but another type of influence. So we need to have a culture in the companies. We should have a culture in the company, a culture in the states. And we should have a company in entities to value cybersecurity and security as a whole. So in this case, trust is the basis. Technical skills and diplomacy skills, the entities. Because with diplomacy we can regulate cyberspace. technical stuff we can recover, we can be preemptive in the future. But we need to have diplomacy, and we need to have relationships, and competing first relationships to create norms and create the regulatory behaviors in the services. This is because conflicts in the northern area normally defined they have geopolitical or they have political objectives, but they are so this is the motivation for us. This is not an economic activity. This is an activity to shift the physical world based on the cyberspace. And then we have the non-state actors. The non-state actors normally they act to have financial gain. So also they can be motivated by political. They have motivational politicals or terrorism or connect or other ideological reasons. But the final goal is financial. We also see a third one that is not. That is the hybrid one. There are nation-state actors that have financial motivations, or non-state actors that not only want to cause disruption, but this fourth one is not. It's not. We cannot put it. We should put it on the non-state actors, but the ones that are supported by the state actors and have financial motivation is important to. About Portugal, what is the case of Portugal in this last year? This is the objective of to do visual response team. We see that this by countries is much higher, almost 30,000 incidents in the last year. Right? So this was reported companies or public administration in Portugal to handle those incidents in this case. So if you look in high impact incidents in the year of 2023, you're going to see that ransomware is the prevalent one. So non-state actors, but we see that every month of the year, almost every month of the year, we have major crisis incidents in Portugal. Most of them there were incidents, and those incidents were at Portugal level create Portugal. So please, everyone keep your system. So people come and see. People coming back, and also the trend for better cryptocurrency is being used for something. And we see also success. Removals, selection, with optimization of things, use context by state actors and some activists in Portugal, mostly for getting the innovation out of Portugal by cyber with great ideas. Also, it's just a cyber system and the use of IA and in this case. So this is to see these numbers, it's because we need cyber. Everybody will be victim relations, trust being the first ones to respond. It goes by beyond protection, a dynamic approach to dealing with problems of the others, so we need to cooperate within this. Everybody that wants to also to try confidentiality, integrity, organizations for all of the rules that get set up, cybersecurity, and we are concerned imperative in this case. So shared with Europe. The strength of the capability is very a series of regulations standing out for enforcing the digital sovereignty and the mandatory obligation of companies, states, and members to cooperate with each other. Those examples are, for example, the Cyber Solidarity Act or the NIS2 directive. That include directives that goes or regulatory demands. The states cooperate with member states and companies, and also have coordinated response. Because the problem of cybersecurity, the problem with cyberspace is that we don't have boundaries. IP addresses when using Portuguese information. Right? That's a problem. So we need to cope with that. of cyber attack in Portugal will be the same type of attack that we used on another member state or expected to be shared because you can be resilient and you can adapt and you can resist to that. So we need to have multilateral efforts. So we need to promote also cooperation to have a responsible use of the cyberspace in this case. So there are lots of entities like UN, this new cybersecurity strategies, the NATO, the Solidarity Cyber Solidarity Initiative, the NIS cooperation with the CERTIU, the ENISA, whatever. Focus groups, there are lots of entities that are focused on getting companies, states, cooperating with each other based on the regulations to get the multilateral efforts to see the cyberspace as a common usable space to be used with responsibility. And also, public and private partnerships are of great importance. So it's strategic that companies don't and also sharing with the states. For example, Portugal is, not only Portugal, but dedicated, 7 dedicated ISACs for sharing scientific intelligence between even if those companies are concurrent within themselves, and also with the state. So the creation of the capability to have entities hoping and having partnerships between each other and also with the state. It's very important to create or to guarantee effective collaboration. This is not all. So that brings the skills. So we cannot deny anything on this. We cannot cooperate. We cannot have resilience if we don't have skills in our world of cybersecurity. So skills is the foundation for creation resilience and also the foundation for creating trust. We have skilled professions. We have the capability to have the possibility to detect, to respond, to recover. And if we can detect, respond, and recover, we have resilience. And if we good skills with the good professionals, skilled professionals, be aware that skilled professionals are not only the technical ones, but are also the ones that are doing the cooperation in trust basis. We can be better what we do. Cyber hygiene, bring the skills to the basis, to the bottom of the entities, of the organizations. But also guarantee that we have lifelong learning around the world. So the threat landscape is constantly changing, the threats are constantly moving, so you need to stay ahead of the curve. So if you want to go to cybersecurity, if you want to know cybersecurity, you need to read at least 5 minutes per day regarding things about cybersecurity. Learn new things, learn what are the trends, learn what are the new legislation, what are the new directives, what are the new problems and the new solutions for everything. So we need to stay ahead of the curve. So let's get as a conclusion, we can bring these 3 phrases over here. Cyberspace influence can be managed through cooperation, and it requires international cooperation. It's not only national cooperation, it requires national cooperation. We need to have effective regulation with cooperation efforts between nations, government, industry, and academia. It's important to have this kind of things. So this triangle of research and innovation, the industry, and also the member states is very, 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 very important. And this is the capability that we can manage the better things to cooperation. So it's a team sport. So we cannot play a football game without 11 players, at least I think. We can play with 9, but we cannot play with less than 9. So no, I don't know anything about football. And skills are essential to cyber resilience. Trust stability and cooperation in these type of things. So thank you very much. We'll shut up.
Thank you very much. In the end of all the presentations, we have the opportunity for debate. Okay? Now, I will do a short presentation of the next speaker, Dr. Fabio Cristiano. He is professor in conflict studies at Utrecht University. He is a critical security scholar on international cybersecurity and the politics of technology, specifically focused on non-human agency, digital harm, and socio-technical knowledge production. He has published widely on these topics and the broader relationship between conflict and computation in Palestine. He is the lead editor of Artificial Intelligence and International Conflict in Cyberspace and Hybridity, Conflict and Global Politics of Cybersecurity. He is an Associate Fellow of the Hague Program on International Cybersecurity and a core group member of the Contesting Governance Platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes. Thank you for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the invitation. Congratulations to SETI for organizing this colloquia over the years. I think this is very impressive, especially in times where the very essence of international relations, let alone academic freedom, is put under question. So it's great to see such student energy, commitment, and it's also refreshing for me to be here. So please keep up the good work. In today's talk, I'm aiming to challenge the dominant discourses around cyber warfare and security, those that emphasize spectacle, sudden shocks, threat inflation, and catastrophic scenarios, such as the infamous cyber at harbor, which is kind of a political aspect that we often see in cybersecurity, particularly in media portrayals of cybersecurity. And to do so, I'm going to actually try to engage a bit with the themes of the conference, future, the logic of emergence in relation to technology, and I also want to kind of reflect a bit on the power outage in Portugal, which was actually affecting my travels here, so I think this is very close to me now, and I would like to talk about it. So I think starting, in fact, with this recent event, I think it's important to think about it in terms of the complexities of contemporary cybersecurity as embodied in the blackout in Spain and Portugal. So just a few days ago, both countries were actually driven into a state of confusion and uncertainty when a vast and sudden blackout disrupted electricity, internet connectivity, transportation, and critical public services. And no explanations pointed towards technical malfunction or systemic failures, the ambiguity surrounding this incident remains unresolved today. So no actor has claimed responsibility, there is no clear explanation, and this uncertainty itself has become, I think, very much telling about the way we create, produce, and construct security. Yet, from the very first moment, everybody has been talking about the possibility of this being a cyber attack. And the uncertainty that surrounds the blackout speaks to a broader trend that shapes our contemporary understanding of cybersecurity. So this case also shows how cyber attack is the most useful imagination in times of uncertainty. So why do we imagine cyber attacks? Why is it so easy to imagine cyber attacks? So over the past 30 years, cyberspace has emerged as a key arena for international conflict, geopolitical competition and security, and from 2016 NATO actually recognized it as an official domain of military operations. And I think that the latest addition to this was outer space, as we discussed earlier in So all states increasingly incorporate the cyber domain into their security strategies, while international diplomacy promotes norms of responsible state behavior, and they are not very successful in doing so. So, however, at the same time, expectations of state-led, warlike conflict in cyberspace remain unmet. Right? There has never been a cyber war, and it can be argued, scholarship now agrees on this, that a cyber war will never happen. So there are three problems around this, which I would like to highlight, and they speak to the previous presentation, which is very much grounded in the reality involved low-intensity hacking, focused on information manipulation rather than the destruction of critical infrastructures. Two, another analytical problem from mainstream perspective is that they focus on the state as a unit of analysis. You did a very good job in telling us that this is not only the state. Right? Even when it's the state conducting this operation, it's often disguised under proxy actors. And so this is challenging, right? Because the network and decentralized nature of cyberspace. And third, which is an issue of primary importance for policymakers and international lawyers, it's very difficult to determine which elements of cyberspace fall within an action territory. And then can be told to identify the extent to which a specific country was targeted. And particularly in the early days, right, without a specific event triggering the imagination of cyber war, this emergence of the concept was defined by an intensification of imaginations over cyber war and cyber boom scenario. These visions often reflected apocalyptic and gloomy scenarios, influenced also, I think, by cyberpunk and fiction cultures on the topic. They were combined with also the promise of a greatness stemming from digital innovation, right? So equaling a utopia-dystopia tendency that is a common component of social technical imaginaries more broadly, right, of security more in general. And I think here the question of the future, which is also an element of today, a theme of today's colloquium, becomes important, right? So we see a lot in cyber security policy making. I think this was also reflected in your presentation, that we think about this domain as a future-oriented domain, right? So these future-oriented temporalities are intertwined in everyday cybersecurity practices, from risk models to forecasting to scenario exercises and so on and so forth. So there is kind of a productive element, right, related to the future of cybersecurity. So the future of cybersecurity is actually practiced now. And the future has always occupied a central role in these cybersecurity imaginations and practices, yet it has been crucially overlooked as an element of mobilization of policymaking in relation to cybersecurity. And I think this is important because these kind of imaginations about what cyber is and what the cyber future entails do not only distort our understanding of the true nature and potential of cyber threats, what is actually happening outside of our threat constructions, but they also obscure the deeper institutional politics and power structures that underlie these cyber operations. To critically evaluate these narratives, I will first revisit the case of Stuxnet, which I believe many of you are familiar with. And you might ask, why are you actually going back to a case from 2010, 2011? Are you still talking? It was a computer worm developed jointly by the United States and Israel to sabotage Iranian nuclear centrifuges. Emerging from the case was telling us that there is an emerging, sorry for the repetition, revolution in military affairs. World is changing. However, now, looking back at Stuxnet, we can assert that this was not a cyber weapon, as it was defined back then. It was more an intricate act of secret statecraft, shaped by diplomatic and strategic considerations rather than tactical military objectives. So while Stuxnet might have briefly hindered Iranian enrichment capabilities, its real political significance is not there, lays elsewhere. So it served primarily as a covert diplomatic tool, preventing overt military escalation, particularly related to the question what our answer affects the type of cybersecurity. It frames our perception of cyber conflict, shifting our understanding away from spectacular episodes of cyber wars towards subtle forms very rarely, even when it happens. They do not deliver significant strategic advantages unless they are coupled with traditional military force. So cyber operations often result in limited outcomes, and they look more like an intelligence command house. And I think because this is a case which is a malicious intent or technical ability which is still surrounding this case. What in science and technology study we often refer to as organized uncertainty. So this uncertainty serves as a strategic asset, allowing states to manage the boundaries of attribution, accountability, and diplomatic response. So if political actors frame this disruption as a cyber attack, if it was a cyber attack, we are not responsible. Right? And I think this is the kind of most important take-home from a political perspective around this case. So uncertainty and ignorance, as shown in this case, are not simply gaps to be filled by knowledge, are better understood as forms of strategic infrastructural modulation, I would call them. So exploiting vulnerabilities in here, success exploited not only technological vulnerabilities in the UN system, but also institutional interdependencies involving multinational corporations, international regulatory bodies, and civilian infrastructure. So this is much more complex than we think it is. And the malware was developed using complex multinational software infrastructures implicating global technology firms in intricate ways. Right? So here the question of attribution, who did that? Its deployment necessitated sophisticated logistical coordination, clandestine operation, and diplomatic programs. It was as much a political institutional operation as it was technological. And so this point brings me to another reconsideration. So rather than viewing cyber threats primarily as technological problems, which require technical solutions, we must recognize